Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're taking a look at a few different cards currently trending on the market because of some recent meta trends. Now on one hand, we just had YCS Utrecht over the weekend, and while Darkwing Blast wasn't legal for the event, we did see some interesting cards pop up here and there. On the other hand, we had the Darkwing Blast pre-release this weekend, which is releasing some pretty interesting cards into the format. And then of course we have our OCG influence as well, and between their reveals and developments in competitive play, there are always cards being bought out and a lot of different factors affecting card prices in every direction. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we have Wind Up Kittens. So this is an interesting card that we haven't talked about in a little while. I think we did discuss it a few years ago, back with some like obedience school type of things. So this is a level 2 monster that once while it's face up on the field can bounce an opponent's monster to the hand. Of course, as a level 2, this is a tech card that is being used in Sprite. And it was actually run by Joshua Schmidt in his first place deck list that won the entire YCS over the weekend. The cool thing is that you can actually abuse this card with Sprite Elf so that you can bounce multiple monsters between linking it off and then summoning it back. Now, I don't know if this card is going to be like the new standard for Sprite, right? Since it does seem a little bit gimmicky or bricky, but it's an interesting tech card nonetheless. Unfortunately, this card was only ever printed back in Photon Shockwave, a set that came out in 2011, and it was an ultra rare and an ultimate rare only. Because of this very limited availability, we are now seeing the ultras right at around $40 and the ultimate rares up at $50 a piece, which is obviously a ridiculous price for a one-of card like this. Personally, even if I were playing Sprite, I'd still be looking to dump this card if you can find someone that's willing to pay this ridiculous price tag. This will undoubtedly put Wind Up Kitten on Konami's reprint radar within the next couple of reprint sets or OTS tournament packs. The next card we have is Elder Entity Entis. This is a card with a really simple effect that has seen a decent amount of play over the last few years. It has a pretty straightforward effect where if it is sent to the graveyard from anywhere, you can pop a card on the field. There are actually a lot of different cards that are able to send this card and get a free pop off of it, such as Nadir Servant, Dogmatika Punishment, and Gale Dogra. Of course, Ultimate Slayer is a card that was released fairly recently, and given that Branded Dogmatika is still a somewhat decent deck in today's format, Elder Entity Entis makes a great dump target. There's not too much else to say about this card other than that it's actually used by quite a few different decks. There are a few different strategies in the game that don't really need all of their extra deck space, such as Floowandereeze and Eldritch, that are able to make use of this card. The card has two different printings, the super rare from the tins a few years back and then the maximum gold reprint. That gold reprint was actually what initially brought the prices of both versions down to a couple of dollars, but that was well before the release of Ultimate Slayer, and the card has only gotten more popular since then. It is a popular choice for a lot of rogue decks, and oftentimes players will run 2 to 3 copies of this card, so a lot of copies get eaten off the market fairly quickly, and the card is now just over the $10 mark for either version. Not too expensive quite yet, but this is probably something that you will want to dump your extra copies of just in case we get that reprint. Next, we're taking a look at Ra's Disciple. This is kind of a weird one. At first, I thought people were just looking at it because of the new God card support that came in the tins, but actually this is kind of a floodgate card. Now, while this card is on the field, the controller actually cannot special summon monsters, and they can't tribute this card unless it's for a Slifer, Ra, or Obelisk. So as a light monster, this is a dump target in Branded Despia, where they summon this card back to your opponent's field in the standby phase with Branded Expulsion, kind of like what people were trying to do with Ido the Supreme Magical Force. In this way, it's a lot like Ibli too, but it also stops them from just linking it off, which is kind of cool. If you can summon all of your monsters in defense mode as well, this might be a really difficult card for them to get rid of off of their own board, and it locks them out for the turn since they can't even run it into your monsters, allowing you to OTK them immediately after. And this card also stops your opponent from dropping Nibiru or Gamma on you as well. Fortunately, this card has a lot of different printings in ultra rare as well as a common. However, it's just the secret rares from the original Dragons of Legend set that have jumped considerably in price to where they are now just over the $20 mark for a single copy. Keep in mind that this is just a one-of, and it's one of those like one-of bricks, right? So I don't think it should matter to you guys too much to pick up this card in its highest rarity form. I personally would dump the secrets and just buy an ultra rare copy for under $1 and then buy back the secret rares in the future if you really want them for your collection. Next up, we're taking a look at a card that is currently trending on the market because of its play over in the OCG. Chaos Hunter is a card that has popped up and seen side deck play at various points over the last couple of years, though it's nowhere nearly as staple as Ash Blossom or other hand traps. Pretty simple card here. When your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard one other card to special summon this card from your hand, and while it's on the board, your opponent cannot remove cards from play. Now in the OCG, this is a card that is getting a lot of attention. It deals with Kashtira Fenrir, stopping them from banishing, and it also prevents your opponent from summoning bestial monsters on you. It also happens to be a level 7, which is kind of a double-edged sword. You can use it to make a rank 7 yourself in Kashtira, but in the OCG they also have mind control at 3, and could theoretically take it from you to make a rank 7 for themselves. This card hasn't seen play here in the TCG yet, but it is on people's radars as the card is starting to move in price. The original secret rares from Storm of Ragnarok are very nice, but those you're looking at $35 each for the unlimiteds and $65 a piece for the first editions. And then the card actually has a couple of other printings as well. I think it was a common in one or two of the structure decks, and then it was a rare in a battle pack as well. All of those different versions are going to cost you anywhere from like $4 to $5 each, which is a lot for a card that was considered structure deck bulk before. Definitely keep an eye on this card going into this upcoming format, because with Fenrir, the Bestials, and the Ishizu cards all in the game, this card might be something that starts to see more play. Just be a little bit careful though in case the card gets reprinted in Magnificent Mavens or Battles of Legend Crystal Revenge. The next card we have is Chaos Space. So this is a really cool card, and it's an important piece of Dragon Link. Basically, this lets you search for a light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned or set, and you can also banish it from your graveyard to put a light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned or set back to the deck in order to draw a card. So in Dragon Link, we saw this used with Levianeer, Collapse Serpent, and Wyverbuster, but on the most recent ban list, we had Chaos Ruler and Halqifibrax banned, which was obviously a huge hit to Dragon Link. However, the deck does get a couple of new toys with the Bestial cards in Darkwing Blast, and some people are thinking that that might be enough to make Dragon Link playable once again, and so they are looking at pieces of the old Dragon Link deck to try to buy. And while you can't search for these smaller Bestial cards with Chaos Space, you can search for Lubellion. Now, I'm not too sure about Dragon Link or how to play it or anything like that. It's not really my type of deck, but from what I've been told, apparently Dragon Maids might be the better pure dragon deck to play with the Bestials, and they don't actually run Chaos Space. But maybe on the other hand, someone has some secret list with Dragon Link that they're testing out and not sharing with anyone. Now, Toon Chaos came out just over 2 years ago, and that's the only place that we've seen Chaos Space printed, and we haven't had very much stuff from that set reprinted in general. Personally, I think that we should be seeing this card, as well as some other Toon Chaos stuff, reprinted within the next couple of months, especially given how difficult it was to find Toon Chaos due to all of the production issues at the time. For now, super rare Chaos Spaces are a crazy $18 each, which really speaks to how difficult it was to get a hold of cards from this particular product, and seeing this card and maybe some of like the Toon and Infernoble cards reprinted would be great for both the competitive and collector's markets. Up next, we're looking at Traptrix Serra. So this is one I wasn't thinking I'd have to look at on Market Watch. We knew a little while ago that this card was going to be reprinted in Magnificent Mavens. However, we just had the cards from the Traptrix structure deck revealed over in the OCG, and they do seem pretty decent. However, some players read the cards, and I think they kind of like panic bought copies of Serra despite the confirmed upcoming reprint. Now, don't get me wrong, Serra is a really good card for the Traptrix deck, as a lot of Link 1s are really good for their respective archetypes. I do think that Traptrix actually runs Serra at 3. However, the card went from $15 to $23 in a very short time because of the reveals, even though we know that the card is getting reprinted in just a few weeks, which really doesn't seem like the best idea. As much as it's a great idea to have the cards in their original highest rarity printing, it's not generally a good idea to buy the card while only one printing is available on the market, because the exclusivity of that printing factors very heavily into the price. Although this card might bounce up to $20 again someday, like in the future, it's pretty clear that the secret rare versions will fall to around $10 to $12 after the release of Magnificent Mavens anyways, so if you really wanted to pick up some original copies, I would wait until after Mavens has come out and had a chance to impact the prices of the cards being reprinted. And finally, guys, the last card we're looking at here is a really random one. It's Testudo Arat Newman. Now, this is a really old common card that has just one printing from back in Shining Darkness. It's a Floodgate monster with 1800 defense points that prevents both players from special summoning monsters with 1800 or more attack. Now, Joshua Schmidt actually ran one copy of this in his side deck at YCS Utrecht and discussed how he ran it in the tier limit matchup. It was a monster that can be summoned off of number 29 Mannequin Cat when they summon an Aqua monster, since Testudo is an Aqua monster itself, and if you summon it to a Sprite Elf zone, then your opponent actually can't target this card either. Really interesting tech, and I mean, like, if it helped Joshua Schmidt to win a YCS, then it has to be, like, pretty good. Unfortunately, the card is so old, it has shot up a lot in price initially because there are such limited quantities of it available. The card is currently $12, though I do expect that by the time that this video comes out, it will probably be back down to around $8 to $10 because more people will have listed it onto the market. Ultimately, this is just a one-of, so I would think that as people get around to listing their copies, it will fall back down to around the $4 to $5 mark, at least until it gets reprinted. Overall though, super cool tech card that you guys should definitely try to dig up out of your bulk and offload while the price is still fairly high. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. It should be really interesting to see how Darkwing Blast influences the format, since I think the set is legal for events next week. Between that and then Magnificent Mavens coming out in a couple weeks, and then Crystal Revenge a couple of weeks after that, we should expect to see a ton of exciting changes all over the market moving forward. Anyway guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by slamming that thumbs up button for me. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today and what other cards are also trending on the market so I can cover them in future episodes as well. Also, if you haven't already, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.